I'm excited to hear this bit you got.
Oh, the power of pussy.
Yeah.
Okay, the power of pussy. Honestly, I think safe to say, chicks are pretty stupid broadly, right? But hear me out. Don't jump to conclusions just yet. Hear me out, okay? So I think chicks are legit stupid. My reason is that they've got one of the most powerful things, all right? Like literally one of the most powerful things. You can get men to do some crazy stuff for just a little sniff of that pussy. And if chicks got together instead of sort of infighting with each other, I really think that women could rule the world. They could run the show. And I'll just so this is my little thought process that I went through to think about this, right? I was thinking, well, okay, it started with a filter, a Snapchat filter, where it made me a girl or put a face on me. And I was like, oh, wow, geez, this is interesting. So I was thinking, what would it be like if I was a girl? How would I be? And I thought to myself, well, I was a chick and I was like that attractive and had a good punani on me. I would literally not let anyone touch that punani unless they jump through every single hoop that I put up. Right? I was like, I would make absolute amazing men. I really would. I would identify the men with talent. I'd set them up with things that they'd have to do to get, a step closer towards getting the punani from me, right? Letting them touch it, sniff it, whatever. And I would make them I would turn them into monsters of men, like amazing, powerful, highly impactful men. I would make them jump through every hoop possible. And every time they thought they were just about to get it, I'd move it just a little bit, move the puck, I'd move it just a little bit to keep them going. Imagine, honestly, if chicks did not give it up so easy, is the point.
Okay, so here is what we're going to do, Rubes, all right? And every guy listening, starting today, we're going to change. We're going to change the narrative. It's going to become power of the cock. And here's how we're going to do it. Starting today, we're going to stop giving it up so easily, okay? Our girlfriends, our wives, at the club, wherever, right? When we're talking to girls, we're not trying to fuck them. We're not going to try and get them in bed. We're going to wait, hold out, and eventually they're going to start, coming to us, right? They're going to eventually get to the point where, what's going on? Like guys have suddenly, stopped going for me.
Guys are...
I used to get hit on all the time. Now guys barely look at me. What's going on? Right? And slowly but surely, if we all do this at the same time, if we all work together and hold out and put the cock on a pedestal, slowly but surely, we'll get the power of the cock.
100%. Except there's one problem, right? One problem with all of it on the women's side and the men's side is it only takes one dick to give in.
I know.
And it's fucked out plan. And then that dick is getting all the pussy.
You're right. That's exactly how it would happen. So, okay, men generally are just socially and generally the ones that have to put in lots of time to try and get with a girl. We have to improve our social skills, our game, we have to show confidence. There's a lot of things that men have to develop from a young age in order to get the prize girls or whatever you want to call it. So earlier when you said girls are just stupid. So if I'm gonna riff off of that a little bit. So part of the reason is
girls are idiots. Girls are idiots. That was the non-PG version is girls are dumb cunts. That's the joke, that's the extreme part of it that makes it a bit. But yeah, keep going.
The reason for that is because they were never required to develop a lot of their social skills. A lot of things okay, let's talk about 7, 8s and up, right? Like 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s. Girls from a young age, in general, they're called princess, right? By their parents, by other people, family members, friends, right? Princess, 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 all through their entire lives, always getting looked at, always getting hit on, constantly. And now social media has amplified it, right? So you have women walking around with this inflated ego because of the way that they were brought up, believing that they're sort of like this gift to men. So there's no need for them to develop socially to the same level that men are required to develop. So a lot of times these women do seem kind of stupid. And I think that's what you're saying. That's where you're coming from with that bit, right?
Well, a little bit. It's more to do with, like, that is part of it for sure. And I think that's an interesting point. I think we could, if we deprive them of dick, we might be able to help elevate them up to a higher status. It's what you're getting at. No, so honestly, the statement, chicks are idiots, is because honestly, like, if they were more sort of, if they held out from us more, or required men to meet more criteria for them, so to speak, and didn't give it up so easy, I think they could really run everything. Like, the pussy is powerful, man. Like, I've seen dudes do some crazy shit for pussy, and like, in silly directions, but you could use that for very positive things as well. Like, you could really help people to become more than what they otherwise would have been just by dangling that money in front.
Okay. I think I understand what you're saying now. So,
we're using it as a carrot, guy.
right. So what you're saying is that they could be utilizing it much more than they already are. So that's why they're idiots, because they could really utilize it to such an end where they could eventually take over the world. And you know what, dude? I agree, bro. And man, I have simped so many times in my life. I've simped so hard. It's so embarrassing. Oh, damn. Like,
I do want, come on.
Oh, okay. Let me think. I mean, I have a bunch of stories where I'm just like chasing a girl and chasing a girl and chasing a girl, but I'm trying to think of like a really, really good story. So give me a minute to try and find like the most embarrassing one.
All right, I'll give you a minute. So what I'm getting at with all of this is, there are some women who have cottoned onto this idea and who have changed their entire lives and had impacts, like outsized impacts on the world because of this. Like, there are like many accounts of this, and not all of them are wildly beautiful or tens or anything else. Like, some of these girls, like some of the girls, if you're going to be ranking, I'm not a big fan of ranking, but if we are going to be using a ranking system, like, there's some girls that are 4, 5s, and 6s that have taken this and been able to elevate themselves in terms of status and their partner, right? Like, they've really been able to. You've got like, your Ivanka Trump, your Paris Hilton, and all those. Like, hers was a little bit different because she was, bought into money with the Hilton family and the rest of it. Kim Kardashian with her porno and the rest of it. Like, these are just some examples, but I'm sure there's many other examples out there of this happening, where they've used the power of the allure that they have, that desirability that they have, and they've used that to sort of get guys to do sort of outsized things to get access to that. And I think it's an amazing skill. And I think if more women used it, the world might be a very different place.
Okay, so it came to mind one of the most embarrassing ones. And okay, first I'm going to start off by saying that Peruvian girls are, I don't want to say the nastiest girls, but they treat men like complete garbage. Out of all the cultures I've been exposed to, out of all the places I've ever been to, I don't know what it is about Peruvian girls. They treat men like complete shit. Okay. So, and this isn't just one experience. I've had many experiences with Peruvian girls, and it's always the same thing. Like, you will find this sort of thing I'm about to explain in all cultures. Like, all women do this, but in Peru, it's just it's man. Like, if anyone asks me, yo, Polska, where is the best and worst place to go to get pussy in Latin America? I would say the worst is Peru, 100%, and the best is Chile. Chile is the easiest place because Chilean guys are ugly as fuck. Sorry, bros, but it is what it is. So if you go to Chile and you're just like a normal dude, you don't have you just have to talk to them. You just have to talk to them. Okay, but anyways, so I'm in Peru and I'm in Lima and I'm in this neighborhood called, I think it's called Flora. Oh man, no, Floresta. I'm not remembering, but it's one of like the nicer neighborhoods in Lima. And I'm at this hostel and it's called Loki. If anyone's been to Loki Hostel, you'll know how fucking insane it is. I mean, the name means crazy pretty much, right? Loki, Loca, Loco. And this is a huge, huge party hostel. And before I got to Peru, this guy told me about it. So when I got to Lima, it was like I literally got off the plane and went straight to Loki. I didn't even have a reservation. And I walked in and you walk in, it's a shitty hostel, but they have a huge bar in the back. And every single night, it's a new event. And basically, girls from Peru, they go there to try and sucker simps like me to take him out to dinner or just do whatever, right? And I didn't realize this at the time because I was naive. So I'm at the bar there the one night. I'm playing pool, and this 10 starts talking to me. And my Spanish was kind of hurting at the time, but I was really trying. And she totally got my attention, mad flirting with me. And I was blown away, right? Because I'm not used to that. I'm not like a guy that girls hit on. I think girls usually think I'm gay. That's my hypothesis, because it's mostly guys. It's mostly gym bros. Gym bros are always like, oh, you probably get hit on a lot, eh? And I'm like, actually, I don't. I get hit on by gay guys, though.
Yeah. I mean, by you, bro.
Yeah. So anyways, she's talking to me and it's going really well. And we exchange numbers and she comes back a couple nights later with her friends, right? And this was like the first red flag. She goes to the bathroom and her friend's like, yo, if you want to get with her, you're going to have to take her to a really nice restaurant, right? I'm like, if I want to get with her, I have to take her to a really nice restaurant. Is that what you said? She's like, yeah. So she comes back and I'm like, oh, guess, and like in front of her friend, I say, yo, so your friend is telling me if I want to get with you, I have to take you to a nice restaurant. Is that true? It's like, no, it's not true. It's not true. I'm like, all right. Like, we're just having fun. We're flirting. And then I'm staying there for a couple more nights, right? And meanwhile we're talking, but nothing has happened still. And another guy at the hostel, he's planning on going to Cusco, and he's like, yo, why don't you come with? I have a good hookup for ayahuasca. We should go together. And I'm planning to go on this trip with him. She comes back a third night because I wasn't sure if I was going to see her again. And she comes back and she's like, yo, I want to be with you, but by the way, I have a girlfriend. So she's like bisexual, I guess. And what's that?
You're like, not a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Not a problem. So, so she tells me that, and she says, listen, so, I realized that you're planning to go to Cusco with this guy, but I'm not sure what I want to do. So can you stay here longer while I decide if I want to be with her? And if I decide I don't want to be with her, then I'll be with you. And this fucking simp that I am, I booked another month at at this Airbnb because I'm like, yo, I'm gonna need like time while she's making this decision, right? Which is super embarrassing. But anyways, so now I'm at this other hostel, and Buddy goes right to Cusco, and I'm kind of regretting. I'm kind of like, fuck, like maybe I should have went. Like I'm being a simp right now, but I booked this for a month. Let's see what happens. She's a beautiful girl. She seems kind of cool, but no, she wasn't cool. But she just in my simp mind. So she starts ignoring me, and then I'm like, hey, well, what's going on? I'm texting her, and finally she responds, and she's like, well, I haven't decided yet if I want to be with my current girlfriend or if I want to be with you, but why don't we talk it over at dinner, right? And I'm like, oh no, I fell for it. She's just trying to get me to take her to a nice restaurant. Like, that's it, right? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Do you like McDonald's? And she thought that was hilarious. And I'm like, yo, like, let's meet up, and I'm not gonna take you anywhere crazy because I don't know what's going on. But if you're down, like we can go to McDonald's or some cheaper place, and you can tell me what's up. So she's like, all right, sounds good. But you have to come to meet. I'm like, well, where are you? She's like an hour and a half out of town, right? And I knew something was up. I knew she was like, she wanted to see how far I would go for her. And the moment I said, I'm not taking you to a really nice restaurant, and I'm not going like an hour and a half out of my way to go see you, she says, yeah, I'm going to stay with my girlfriend. And that was it.
Wow.
That was it. Yeah. And I was there for a fucking month thinking about my stupid decision that I made. And this only happened 3 years ago, dude. Like, so I'm trying to tell myself that I'm not a simp, right? I'm trying to, I've evolved from that. And like in my mind, I believe that I have, but until I'm put to the test, I really won't know. And dude, I have so many simp stories. It's so fucking embarrassing, bro.
So that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of the pussy. It is a perfect example of the power of the pussy. It's except you counteracted that power of the pussy by being funny as fuck when you invited her to McDonald's.
Yeah, I like to think that I'm not the simpest of all simps. I'm not the king simp. I have a limit.
Yeah, you're not at the bottom of the spectrum.
Yeah, it's when they try to fuck with my money that I'm like, I draw the line. Like I don't. Yeah, I've never like, done any simp shit with money. Like,
yeah, you never really wanted to pay for the pussy, so to speak. You wanted it more to be a reciprocal, physical, mental, attraction based thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. But honestly, that's an example of the power of the pussy. Now, did she play it to the best of her ability? Probably not. Did you play it to the best of your ability? Yeah, I don't know. But that is one example. She was trying to put you through the ringer. She was trying to get you to jump through these sorts of hoops. Now, I'm going to say she didn't execute as well as I think she could have, especially if she's as attractive as you mentioned. She could have got you doing way, way crazier things. But this is the trick, right? You actually have to play a sort of long game. If your timeline is too short, you're going to make the jumps will be too big between things, and it'll be off-putting, just like you mentioned about like, oh, you got to go all this way here or out to an expensive restaurant, etc. If she started out with a little thing, and then the next time it was just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and you keep moving, like just as they get close, like you think, oh, I'm about to get the carrot, right? And then she just moves it a little bit away, and then you go forward again, and then a little bit, and then all of a sudden you could get some, like guys especially, women could be getting men to do amazing things for the greater good for them, for whatever. But I think, yes, it's an underutilized thing, but that's a fun story. Don't be embarrassed about simping, guy. We've all been there.
Yeah, fuck it. Dude, it's insane how crazy, like Peru, like they sexualize women so much, bro. So much. I was blown away. to how much they sexualize women. Like if you go to Iquitos in Peru, every bar, every like even restaurants, they have girl performers like singers dressed up like what's it called? Oh, like like hookers or like strippers, and they get paid very little money, but they'll just go and sing and skimp out, and they'll like shake their booty half naked at like a family restaurant, and kids will be there, and they have performances at night at many different places, like family places. It's crazy how many places hire these singers, these performers to come sing at their restaurants. Like this, it's like during lunchtime. And I've never seen a culture that sexualizes women to that extent. It was kind of wild.
It not gonna lie, kind of sounds like a kindergarten drag show you just described.
A kindergarten drag show?
You've seen all those.
Yo, it does, right? It does. Yeah, that's true.
Just real quick question. Like I'm just curious, what's a stripper's uniform?
Right, that's a good question. I don't
Is it just
know.
like clothes, or is it just like very little clothes?
So the girls performing at these family restaurants are legit wearing a thong. Like you can see their entire ass. And I went there because, well, I mean, it's everywhere. Like it's kind of crazy. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the girl. I'm thinking, yo, I kind of want to get with this girl. You know what I mean? But everyone is invisible to her because I don't know if it's just Iquitos or if it's all of Peru, but there is this question that comes up to women. It's, would you rather have a sugar daddy or an OnlyFans account? And this is like a big debate in women's mind in Peru, and it's kind of astonishing. So if you're a rich dude, you can have 1, 2, 3, however many girls you want. But now that there's OnlyFans, girls don't really need a sugar daddy like they did before, because because OnlyFans is basically paying for everything and more that they could have gotten with a sugar daddy. So men are just becoming invisible in Peru altogether, I think.
So it's why have one sugar daddy when you could have many sugar daddies? OnlyFans. Like that's the thing. It's literally like you go from having one sugar daddy, because like you can't sleep with too many of the same guy in the same town because everyone will get jelly or whatever. Whereas OnlyFans, you can have many sugar daddies across the world.
So I have to apologize to Peru because I'm like trash talking them a lot. I love Peru. They did close Machu Picchu though. Did you hear about that? There's been a lot of protests about it. I believe that they closed it because they're trying to take care of it, which is interesting because it's their biggest. It might be the biggest attraction in all of South America. I'm not sure if it's number one, but it's up there definitely. And I think they closed it to try and take care of it. And there's a lot of issues because many people make money from that. But anyways, I have lots of love for Peru, but I feel like they have sexualized women so much, and the princess syndrome is really, really high in Peru. Do you get what I mean by princess syndrome?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just overweighting that physical, attractiveness or sexuality or any of those things. It's just too much on that, not enough on the cognitive side and the who you are as a person kind of vibe. I get it for sure. Quick question. Have you ever seen the earnings distribution from OnlyFans accounts?
No, I've never seen that.
It is bonkers insane. So essentially it's just like, less than 0.1% of the accounts make all the money. And then 99.99% of every other account is like nothing. So it's just like, like a very tiny percent of accounts make the majority of the money on the platform. And then everybody else is just fighting over pennies, essentially. It's like a few OnlyFans creators have the monopoly on making the money on OnlyFans.
Really?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I thought that any girl could make money on there. I was under the assumption that, any girl literally could make a lot of money on there.
And make money on there. You're just not going to make lots of money on there.
Oh, I see.
Only a small percentage of accounts make, big money. And then almost everybody else is sort of, fighting over the pennies at the bottom. It's not that they can't make any money. It's just there's very little money for them to make, $100 here, $100 there kind of thing. But if you're in a country where, $100 is a lot of money, then that's no drama. But again, it's just like it becomes a commodity. The more people do it, more choices. Naturally, there's going to be a few people that sort of get the most choices.
Rubes, if you have a daughter, how are you going to raise her?
That's a good question.
What sort of things are you going to try and influence or instill in her so that she can be successful?
Well, definitely critical thinking. Definitely developing self-awareness. I think I would try to expose or influence in a way of like explaining different dimensions of things. So it's like, don't just beauty or physical attractiveness isn't everything. There's more to it than that. I think there's many different ways to influence it, but there's a book called The 48 Laws of Power. I think, by Robert Greene. Phenomenal book. And in that, I think it's chapter 13, chapter 11. He has the chapter about, gender and not gender really, but he gives an example of this lady called Caterina Sforza. And she is an Italian woman who lived in like the 1300s or 1400s, maybe 1500s, like a long, long, long time ago. And she was part of the Milan royal family or something to do with that. Anyway, her dad was like this gangster. Had ruled over a certain part of the land in Italy, et cetera, et cetera. They had castles and all this sort of stuff. And he raised her, and he essentially got his, his counsel, his philosopher, his, like the sort of the knowledge guy for him, that his advisor, so to speak, to educate her. And he put no constraints on her. So she was allowed to train with the boys in fighting with swords and with different battle things. She was doing mathematics and philosophy and understanding history and, battle tactics for war and all this. Like, she just had an incredibly diverse upbringing where no gender stereotype was put onto her. She was free to pursue and do whatever was of interest, and then also things that the people around her thought might be beneficial. But she wasn't told she can't do something. So I think that's one good lesson to learn from that. Anyway, it's an amazing story. Highly recommend people listen to it. Long story short, this chick grew up to be a fucking gangster. Like, fucking gangster. She was stylish, right? So she had like one of the most sought after styles in all of the country. So she would rock these amazing dresses, and then she'd just have a massive sword over the top, right? She'd just be packing a massive sword. And she would just do this crazy. She rode a horseback. She did all this stuff. Anyway, she had to get married because of, like the weird, like political connections and or not weird. They're make lots of sense when you think about it. So she was getting married off to another, family that had lots of property and whatever else. Anyway, to cut a long story short and to not do a spoiler alert, shit goes awry. He's a douchebag, all this other stuff. He ends up getting killed by like a competing family. She's all alone with all the kids, right? And then they come and try and kill her. She fucking sorts him out, right? Then there's another set of assassins that come, or she gets married again. It's a whole big thing. I'm just summarizing. Married again. He gets killed in front of her. She says like, fuck you to the people. Then they send assassins, right? She locks herself in the castle. They send assassins, kidnap the kids, right? So they kidnap all her kids. They're outside the castle. She locks herself in the castle. They're having this standoff. And they're like, we're going to kill your children. She's like, you're not going to kill my children, because if you kill my children, all hell's going to break loose, blah, 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 blah. And she goes, and I don't even care if you kill my children, because I've still got this. And she points to her pussy, and she's like, I can make more. I can make way more. It's okay. Go for it. She calls their bluff, right? She calls their bluff. She has this whole big thing. She lures a guy in. She gets him, holds him hostage. It is just a remarkable story. She goes to jail for like 10 years, almost withers away, comes out, falls in love with the love of her life. It's a whole story, guy. It is amazing. I can put a link to the chapter of the book if anyone's interested. But yeah, Caterina Sforza, she is like, when I read it, it made me emotional. Like I got so emotional because I thought, wow, this is human potential. She was not constrained by a gender role. She was free to explore whatever interest it was, and she was taught things that helped her to become a more robust person. And she proved it throughout her life. She was faced with adversity, and she overcame like just ridiculous stuff. And when you think about the times that like when she lived, it's even more crazy the stuff that she did and was able to achieve. But yeah, she would rock massive, a beautiful, like she was known as a fashionista, but then she would just chuck a massive sword on there as well. Like I just love it.
Dude, that is a wild, wild story. It started making me think about more about the power of the pussy and how the power of the pussy can be very, very detrimental, right? Because I'm just hypothesizing, but I believe women notice the power of the pussy at quite a young age, I would think, right? I'm not sure what that age would be.
I think some do. I think it's largely it's not noticed as much as it could be.
So they basically can, if they begin to utilize it or monetize it to their benefit, right? It can get them a lot of success, right? Like you always hear about it in the movie industry. Well, who's the guy that everyone had to fuck to get a role?
Harvey Weinstein.
I almost said Brett Weinstein. Yo, I'm sorry.
Don't throw Brett under the bus, man. Jeez.
I know, dude. I love Brett Weinstein. Sorry, bro.
Yeah, him and his wife actually have an amazing book called oh my god, why am I blanking? A Human's Guide to the Modern Age. No, what is it? Jeez. You keep going with your thing. I'm going to find that. Sorry.
But shout out Brett Weinstein. That guy is so, how you like to say, gangsta. He's so gangsta. I love that fan. Yeah. Huge fan. He's crazy. Well, I don't mean he's crazy, but he's crazy good. But anyways, and you hear about all these women having to fuck Harvey Weinstein to get these roles, right? And then going back to my earlier point about developing socially, like it's basically a cheat code that women have. And like you said, if they realize it, it is a cheat code that they can utilize to get a lot of success. But there will be a day that will come that's going to be a very, very difficult day for those women. It's when they get to a certain age and they realize very quickly that the power of the pussy just isn't what it used to be, because the power of the pussy is directly associated with age and beauty in a lot of these circumstances. So once those women, they age, they get above, I don't even know what that age would be. It's probably individual. That power of the pussy just no longer works. And then what skills do they have if they've been using this cheat code their entire life and suddenly God mode is turned off? What then?
So 2 things. One, that's why you got to play the long game, right? So the whole idea of while you're young and you got it, do the things that future you is going to be really, really proud about, right? So play the long game. The other one is, okay, what happens then? Well, it's only a problem if you've overinvested in relying on that. Whereas if you use the power of that punani over the years to, amass or develop an amazing relationship with someone, help to level up your life and their life and everyone around you's lives, well, then you're going to be protected from most of the downside. But if you haven't, you squandered that and everything's based off superficial things, well, then you're really going to, you'll essentially pay for that price. And we can make an analogy to drugs here, right? Like, if you utilize drugs for certain purposes, they can be life enhancing. If the drugs start using you, they're going to be they're going to deteriorate your life. And the difference there is, one is going to feel really good in the moment, and you'll pay for it long term. The other one won't feel as good in the moment. It'll force you to challenge yourself. It'll be hard to do, but long term, you'll be really thankful. So you'll always pay, right? It's just when you pay. You either pay now or you pay later. Like that really is a big thing. And so I think, yeah, if utilizing the power and all of those things to level up, like level yourself up, but level up other people. That's my real point about the power of the punani, is that you could utilize it to help men to become more than what they otherwise would be, just by holding out a little bit. Like, just don't give it up so easy, right? Like, I myself have had this thing, right? It's the thrill of the chase that really is the exciting part, right? Okay? As soon as you get it, it's like meh, like most of the time, right? Most of the time you're like, oh, it's going to be in, and then you get it and you're like, yeah. And I can't, like, that's just, for whatever reason, that's an intrinsic, thing that certain guys or men have. I don't know if you have it. Okay, funny story. I use this with one of my good friends. He was making some bad life decisions, okay? And one day he was reflecting about his bad life decisions, and I wasn't judging them as bad. He was communicating that he wasn't happy with what was happening, right? He was quite depressed at the time, because he would find himself getting, a bit worked up, a little bit toey, and then doing things that he was very not proud of. Okay. So, engaging sexually with certain, girls or whatever in certain practices. And then he'd be, as soon as he would blow, he would have instant regret. Okay. And he just couldn't stop. It was just like this, perpetual cycle that was happening. And so I explained to him one day, I said, look, after all of the things you said to me, why don't you try this strategy? Okay. Next time you find yourself getting a little bit G'd up and you start getting on the different dating things or whatever, and you start doing the messages back and forth with the people that you typically do it with, just rip one out. Just rip one out. He goes, what? Fucking wank. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, no, can't do that. I was like, honestly, it seems to me that is the root source of your problem. Like, the fact that you won't, masturbate yourself is causing you to get into these situations where you're just going to take whatever you can get, and then you end up regretting it and hating yourself, and it's this negative spiral. So no. And I'm like, just try it, okay? Next time you get a bit G'd up, rip one out, and if you still want to go and meet up with the girl after that, go for it, right? But if you don't, then you've just saved yourself all that regret. So anyway, we can go away and come back next week and we're chatting, and he's like, bro, you fucking saved my life, eh? You fucking saved my life. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, the other night it was happening, and I just thought, no, fuck, I'm just going to rip one out. He rips one out. He goes, oh, instant. I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Why was I even messaging that? But like, so for him, it has just changed because it's the thrill of the chase. Like in that moment, that chase, I don't know if you're the same, but sometimes you might be willing to do, almost anything. Like it's quite a overpowering sort of, feeling. What's your thoughts?
That's interesting. I've never really tried that before, so I couldn't really say. My thoughts on that would be that it's sort of an attempt of having post-nut clarity before you have post-nut clarity. You're sort of initiating post-nut clarity. It's like a pre-post-nut clarity. Clarity? I don't even know what to call that.
And that's really what it is. It's the clarity, right? Because when you start getting the hormone production and all of that chase, I want to get some, I want to get one off, essentially, that's really what it's about. And so if you just, go, okay, like what I'm trying to get at is it's the thrill of the chase and that all of that hormonal cocktail that gets produced that can really brainwash you. It can change your perception of reality. It can change your behavior. It can change the things you're willing to do and won't do. Like it's like a crack addict doing anything to get some crack. Like I know many a guy that's like do whatever they can to get one off, right? And so instead of following through with the things that you end up hating yourself for, like I don't know if you've ever post nut and then wanted to like have a shower, but you felt so dirty you couldn't clean yourself. But like that's not a nice feeling. And so that's what he was stuck in that loop and he couldn't break it. And it was all because he wouldn't, he wouldn't jack off. And I was like, man, mate, just try that. And like he would bust a nut. He would get the clarity, realize that was he doesn't want to do any of those things. And it was just the fact that he was in the chase mode that was sort of, clouding his judgment to go down these paths.
I could totally see why it would work for someone like your buddy there. I don't think that's an issue with me personally. I mean, I've jerked off before going out to the bar in case I would get with a girl. When I was much younger, I used to worry about that. Like, oh man, like I gotta last longer than my usual 30 seconds. I gotta make sure I jerk one off before I go out.
What do you mean by 2 or 30 seconds?
Dude, I'm lucky if I can get to 30 seconds, bro.
Get out of here.
I'm exaggerating, but
that's what a hope guy.
So I would, it's like going out with you can't go out with a loaded weapon. That's like the saying, right? Yeah. And when I was younger, I used to think about that, but in my later 20s and 30s, I never thought about that. Like I thought, if I don't last, I don't last. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And to be honest, girls, like this is what I believe. I could be wrong. So let us know in the comments how big of an idiot I am, or how big of idiots we are. But I don't think girls are I think girls are more concerned about having that connection with a guy. And they're not totally bummed out if you can't last that long the first time around, because there's always options for round 2, right? Like I've had many encounters with girls where, like I didn't last very long. And then, you let like 10, 15 minutes pass and then you get another hard dick and they're excited to see it. And you go again and it's all good. And they don't even remember that first 30-second round that you had. So I don't even think it's a big deal. To be honest, right? Because when you go out and you're trying to chase pussy and you get with a girl, you're not just fucking her once. Like it's usually you're with her that night. You know what I mean? You gotta fuck a bunch of times. What, am I right or am I wrong?
Well, if you only last for 30 seconds, for sure, you can fuck, I don't know, 20 or 30 times in a night, easy peasy. But if you're making love and it's a long process, 30, 45, an hour, whatever, then there's less opportunity for that and it's slightly more taxing. But I know what you mean. I definitely do.
I have never had sex for half an hour. Never once, dude. Like the longest was maybe like 15 minutes and I was high on Molly.
Get out of town. Are you serious?
I swear to God, bro. I don't get how guys can go more than that. I don't get it. Like
if you blow the first time, have you ever tried to come a second time? It's near impossible.
I can nut the second time. It's the third time where it's impossible. But if I know that I'm not gonna nut, I lose my boner. If I know like this isn't gonna happen, I lose all interest.
You think
I think I have an issue where it's all about blowing my load. You know what I mean? Like it's this whole encounter is just about me blowing my load, and I think that's like an issue because as soon as I know I can't, my boner's gone.
I love that. I love it's beautiful. That's hilarious. Okay, so first a couple of things, right? If I don't know how accurate the statistics are on this, but it's something like only 1 in 3 women actually experience orgasm, which I think is ridiculous if that's true. I don't know if that's true. If any chicks out there, let us know. But my experience with it is, well, I sort of understand. Not many people understand anatomy. That's a big one, right? So growing up, everyone's like, oh, you don't even know where the G-spot is, or you don't even know where this or that, and all this stupid shit. And then, you learn about anatomy and you realize like, what would the G-spot be? And then you realize, the clitoris is the erectile tissue that, can become stimulated. And with some women, their clitorises are more, they're closer to the external surface, or they're more outward. And then some clitorises, or some have clitoral tissue that is more internal and can push into the vaginal canal. And so you can get stimulation from both directions. Some women, it's more shallow so that they don't have that internal stimulation. Some women, it's very deep and they can get serious amounts of internal stimulation. Well, like just a basic understanding of anatomy, I think a lot of people fail with. And with women, what I actually think it isn't actually the man's job to make a woman come, and it isn't the woman's job to make a man come. It's my job to, become aroused and do that. And it's their job for them. Now, I don't just put that on them blindly. Like for me, it's never really been about just getting, a load off or just coming, right? It is more about that connection, mainly because I find that more nourishing. And again, I find this like, there's a good analogy we can make between junk food and whole foods. Is junk food, it seems like, it gives you all that stimulation initially, but it leaves you wanting because there's no nourishment in it. There's no nutrition. It's just all the trickery, right? The colors and the flavoring and the sweetness. And I think casual sex is a lot like that. I think it's very superficial, right? There's no deep sort of connection and meaning with it. And so I think if you get, used to that sort of superficial stuff, it leaves you wanting over time. I've always just intrinsically just sort of tended to steer more towards those deeper and more meaningful sorts of connections. But for me, with all of that, it's funny because even though I believe that it's woman's responsibility to be in tune with herself enough to know what arouses her or pleasures her, etc., and to be open to doing those things for each other in that engagement. That kind of makes sense, right? But I've also found that it's also way easier if you just make them come first, and then there's no pressure. So, and there's many ways to do that. And I think a lot of guys overemphasize certain, things, like thinking, like you understand the fact that, if it is a fact that only 1 in 3 women, regularly experience orgasm, and that not all women have large clitoral masses in the vaginal canal. Most of the clitoris is on the outside, right? So, sex isn't typically going to be the greatest mechanism for the orgasm, but other things are. Like, think outside the box. Come on, guys. Like, anyway.
I agree, bro. I think making love and having sex are 2 completely different things. I never enjoyed one night stands. Didn't like that. That's why for me, it was just about, I'm going to try and please them, and I'm going to try and please myself. It's essentially quite a selfish act. And I realized that. So that's why I never really enjoyed one night stands or trying to pick up girls to have sex with them, because making love is just on another level. I agree. Like when you have that deep connection with somebody and you learn how to pleasure them and they learn how to pleasure you, it's on another level, completely different level. And you can get a lot more comfortable. Like for me personally, sometimes it's really difficult for me to get a hard on if I don't know the person, because like I'm nervous, I'm not comfortable, and I'm just trying to like I almost feel like I'm like trying to force it onto myself to sleep with this girl because I put in all this work to do it. And when it gets to the moment, I'm like, fuck, man, this is tough. Like I'm nervous. I feel like pressured, and my dick isn't going up like I want it to be right now. Whereas when you're having a deep connection with someone, you're comfortable with that person, I can get the hardest dick. You know what I mean? But
absolutely. Yeah. But another big one too is so much of arousal is actually like that teasing, right? And knowing how to make someone feel safe or comfortable, and then not rushing for those outcomes. Like, well, like you just said, like a lot of the time, I'm not really engaging in the sex just to bust a nut. It's actually a very nice way to connect with somebody and share an intimate moment, right? And that in itself is a really nice thing, right? And so slowing it down, taking all that pressure off, that's a very big part of it. But I think a lot of, if we come very, so it's like goal directed, like you got one goal and it's, I got to do this to get off, etc. That can put a lot of pressure on it. And I think they're the times when you probably end up with very unsatisfying orgasms, right? Like, the one night stand and that sort of stuff, that very superficial thing. Those orgasms might only last like, 2, 3, 4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds if you're lucky. Like it's a very fleeting thing. Whereas when you play that longer game and you slow it down, it's more of a dance and it's an entwinement, you're entangled with the other person intimately at that moment. You're both sharing some sort of vibrational state, and you're deeply connected. That orgasm can last for a very long time. They can be, 20, 30, 40 seconds. And like, that's a completely different experience. And it's a whole body, or my experience is it's a whole body experience. You feel it everywhere. And it sometimes can be dangerous. Like, if you go for too long, I get a cramp sometimes. And then it's this fucked up thing between pleasure and pain, and you got to start worrying, and it's this whole big thing. But yeah, I think slowing it down, playing that longer game, not just doing it for that one outcome, but enjoying the actual experience of making love. That entire process that goes into it, that deep connection, that's just you. I think that's one of the beautiful things about making love is everything else disappears in that moment. There is nothing else. There is no one else. It's just the two of you, entangled together. I think that's a really cool thing.
Earlier, I asked you, well, how would you raise your daughter? Like, what would you teach her? And where I was going with that is give me an idea of what the conversation is with her about the power of the pussy. Like, what does that entail? And what are you going to inform your daughter exactly of what it is and how it works?
It's going to be, that is the greatest resources that you will ever have. But if you give it away for nothing, it could be very dangerous. Well, I don't know if I say it's dangerous, but I say you don't want to give that away for nothing, right? Because once you've given it away, you can't take that back. Okay. So my whole thing would be is like, understand the value of it, understand how powerful it can be, and you can utilize this for you to have an amazing life. And anyone that is sufficiently, that really does love you or care about you or want to be with you will understand that and respect that, because I think that shows your values and your morals a lot. But I would just be like, don't give it away too easy. Like, I know for myself, like, the amount of things that I would have done to get certain outcomes in life are far greater than what I ended up having to do. And I look back and I think, oh, wow, I wish that person, or not I wish, but, it would have been interesting to see if that person made me jump through more hoops, what I could have achieved.
So I'm just looking up a word here. There's a good word in Spanish. It's edificar. But when I translate it, it just says build, but that's not the word that I'm looking for. What I wanted to say is that I guess maybe teaching your daughter about the power of the pussy, there's really two routes, right? You can use the power of the pussy to build your life and build the life of the man you want to be with, because you mentioned something interesting where you can utilize the power of the pussy to get the best out of the man that you're with. So in Spanish, we would say edificar, but in English, I guess it's build. So I'm just going to use that word. It's not really the word I was looking for. And you can utilize it to build up that person you're with, right? The other route is, listen, you can use your pussy to get money, to get houses, to get cars. And that's sort of like the dangerous route. She's getting things, but it's meaningless if it's just for free.
What's I hear explain? One route is superficial and the other one is a deep route. And I just tend to for the deep route. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the superficial, but it's not for me. And I would want to sort of bias more towards the deep, meaningful route. And I think that's entirely what you can do. And I just, I think I'd love to teach that Caterina Sforza style. Like, I think that's going to be a story that I read to my kids, as daughter, if I have a daughter. That's the sort of stuff that I'll be reading to those kinds of things, that empowerment, that the world, this universe is for you to explore, right? All of these different things are things to explore. Don't get caught in these silly local max, superficial games, right? It's not worth it. And a good litmus test for people is to find out if they are just interested in you just for that superficial. And so if you hold out and you don't give it up, then they'll drop off. And you'll be very thankful that you held out, because otherwise they would have played you. They're just tricking you, right? They're trying to tell you all these things, the love and this and that and whatever. And as soon as they get it, they just buy, And so you don't want to fall victim to those shitty games, right? You don't want to fall prey to that tactic from guys. And, I know a bunch of guys that use that tactic. I've used that tactic myself. Like like I said, I don't wish, but it would be interesting to see if it was held out a little bit more or held off. Like I didn't get what I wanted so easily, what I would have been willing to do, and the sort of person that I might have become because of that. That's an interesting thing for me to think about. But yeah, I really do believe that using it for the more deep and meaningful, using it as a filter to filter people in and out of your life in that regard, because once you give it away, you can't get it back. And if you give it away too much, man, it just becomes a commodity. The price goes to zero. Whereas like if yours is the one that, no one's ever had, there's a rarity to it.
So I want to talk about why I think it being used for superficial gains is dangerous. And I don't think it's only dangerous for the women utilizing it for that, but it's also dangerous to the men that they are utilizing it on. Because if they're utilizing it for superficial things, the respect they're going to get from men is going to be a low level of respect. Men are going to think, oh, she's just fucking me for my money, right? And if a lot of women are doing this is kind of like the gold digger, I guess, realm category. I think that's really dangerous for the mental health of men and the mental health of women, because you're generating lots of men there that are going to start having negative emotions towards women. They're going to be saying things like, every bitch is just fucking me for my money. Every bitch is just a fucking gold digger. And every woman is just going to think, oh, every guy is just a sugar daddy. I get no respect, but at least they buy me things. Right?
Right. Yeah. So, but for them, that's likely true, and that's why it's like, I'm not saying anything like right or wrong or whatever. It's just, for me, that's not what I would want. I don't want the superficial. If people want it, go for it. Have it. Like that's perfectly fine. Do that. But to me, I think go for the deeper, more meaningful route. And I think you bias toward that direction as well.
Yeah, but I want to understand why you're saying that's fine if it's such a detriment to the mental health of both sexes.
If that's what they want, that's what they want. Like at the end of the day, there, like I said, I don't think there is, right and wrong. I think it's what we make of it. And so if that's their journey, that's their experience that they want to have in life, go for it. I can't help but have been exposed to that side of things with the superficial, and I've just seen it not work out at all for anyone in the long run. I've it might have been fun in the moment, but I think long term they really pay for that. And for me, I don't want to be paying for those things later on. I prefer to build that deeper connection.
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree. You have to let people live the way they want to, and and do the things that they want to do, because to each their own. Personally, I had this sad image come into my mind. Okay. And the sad image is, you have this beautiful 10, and she's at home during the day in this mansion, and she's out by the pool on this nice pool with a lawn chair, beautiful backyard. I mean, this place is like a multi-million-dollar home, right? And she's out there, she's alone, and she's taking pictures for Instagram. And this is a daily thing for her. And I mean, yeah, she travels and she does all these things, but when it comes down to it, she's just this sort of prize, or this element that this rich guy has obtained and put there. And what she's doing with her life is it's kind of sad because I believe someone who hasn't worked really hard for what they have can't appreciate those nice things. And I just don't believe that there is joy in finding sugar daddies. I just don't believe that. There might be like instances of joy because, oh, I get to go, to France or to Dubai or wherever it is to take the best Instagram pictures maybe. But I don't think that that's a valuable life. And I don't think that is a happy life. What are what's your take on
Um, Look, it doesn't seem to be the most valuable, but it might be serving a function for those people. This is the big difference here. This is the difference between one-dimensional and multi-dimensional, right? So one-dimensional and n-dimensional. In these one-dimensional cases, it's very lopsided. It's very putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. Whereas you want multi-dimensional approaches to things. You don't want it just to be the money or just to be the beauty or just to be any number of those one things. You want it to be a combination of all things. And I think that really is the case. But look, all you need to do, this is for me personally, and this is not a judgment on anyone, but for me personally, I couldn't think of anything worse than, having everything paid for me and, not really having anything to do. I don't think that that's an enjoyable lifestyle. I grew up in a very diverse environments. So I was exposed to very wealthy people and also very poor, and different levels of education and society and all the rest of it. Right. So with a lot of the wealthy side of things, I witnessed things that look good but were far from good. And on the poor side of things, things that looked bad, there's a good saying. So it's looks good from far, but far from good, right? And then on the opposite of that, the inverse of that, right, where it looked terrible on the surface, but when you actually understood it was actually beautiful. And so you see how things that look really good can actually be bad, and then things that look bad can actually be really good. And so it's a bit more nuanced than all of that. So I suppose what the sort of point is we as human beings, we need purpose and meaning. And if your purpose is to just be a toy or an object, if you're very low dimensional, right? If you're very, there's not a lot of complexities to who you are, you're a bit of a more simple person, then that might be enough to satisfy you in your life. And so, who am I to judge, or who's anyone else to judge? I typically don't think that most people are very, that low dimensional. I think we have the capacity to be very high dimensional people, or beings. And so, I think sometimes that probably isn't the greatest of experiences. Often, this is something I think about, is people, when they go, I just want to retire, or I don't want to work anymore, I just want to sit on the beach and drink margaritas, or I just want to sit on the beach and drink mojitos, or whatever their favorite drink is, right? Or drink beer every day.
For that.
Yeah, right? Seriously think about what that would entail. Imagine, again, I've been on holidays for weeks and months at times, and you might sit on the beach and have a couple of drinks or whatever. If you start doing that every day, every week, it just becomes boring because it's what you always do, right? And so none of that, none of those dreams that we allow ourselves to have at different times are realistic in that sense. Thinking oh, I wish I didn't have to worry about money. Well, you just worry about something else. It doesn't change. There's always going to be these issues. The trick is find out what you love doing, what gets you up in the morning, what gives you purpose and meaning, what lights your spark, what engulfs you in all of that. Develop those things and lean into that. And if for you it's just taking pictures of yourself and posting them online, that's what gives you your purpose and meaning, well, good luck to you. For me, that wouldn't be enough.
What's more powerful, the power of the pussy or the power of money?
Depends who you're for.
Yeah, I guess it would be individualistic, right? Because I'm thinking there's scenarios where you have an extreme gold digger where she is just looking for guys with lots of money. And
can we use a toy boy? I feel like you're bashing the gold diggers here. Can we just use a toy boy? Can we put some shit on toy boys?
What's a toy boy? Like a
Toy
sugar
boy is
daddy?
the gold digger. No. Toy boy is like the guy who has no job, has no money, but he's attractive and like typically not the most intelligent. And then like a rich sugar mama will be using the toy boy. So toy boy, yeah, like their little pet.
Guy, does that actually happen though?
Absolutely.
Like you
100%.
hear about it. I've never seen it.
100%. I've seen it many a times. I've seen it with men and women.
Yeah,
Toy boy for guys, toy boy for girls.
I'm sure it happens. Actually, my father told me he had a friend and that was his goal. And his game was he would just find out where the rich people hang out and he would get into those scenarios. And he eventually found a rich woman that he married.
Sugar mama, boy. Sugar mama. Yeah, can you just put some shit on the toy boy? Like when you would just invert your examples?
Yeah, sure. So you have a toy boy, and this toy boy is willing to do whatever it takes to get the money, right? Whereas the sugar mama is doing whatever it takes to get the dick. So I'm wondering which dynamic is essentially more powerful. What is the greater want? Is it the dick, or is it the money, or is it the pussy, or is it the money? What has the more dominant power in these unhealthy circumstances?
Or one that you're lacking the most? So if it's money that you lack the most, then money will be the biggest one. If it's pussy that you lack the most or dick that you lack the most, then that will be the driving one. It's always what we don't have, right? That would be my take. So like if you already have a lot of money but you can't get pussy, then pussy's going to really drive you in that regard. If you want that, if you want it, again, that's another condition. But then you've got the case where there's asexual people, right? So, you and I both know someone that, well, I know many people that are asexual, but we both know someone that's asexual. Just doesn't have a drive for it. What are you laughing at? That's not funny.
I'm sorry. I know it's not funny. I'm an asshole. I love you, bro. If you're watching.
But no, he's not fucking watching. Don't worry about that. If you should be downvoting us continuously. So there's that too. Like so, sex is not everything. It's like it tends to be a lot to people who want it but don't get it. Right? That's when it becomes asymmetric in that regard. When you can get it and you've had it and you realize that like, yeah, it's a nice thing, but like it's just a thing. You know what I mean? Like I think, yeah, it's the thing you're missing that has the most power over you, or the thing you're wanting that you're not getting is the thing that'll end up having the most power over you.
I keep thinking back to what you said earlier, and I just love this point, and I just hope that if there are any women still watching the pod after we've completely just been trashing women, we
see things. Come on, we're just
it's just a podcast. We're
just idiots.
We're two idiots. Yeah, we're just idiots. We're just idiots. But if there's any women watching, use that pussy to up your life, but do it in a way that's not superficial and build the men that's in your life. Like that's dope, dude. Like I think that's so cool. Obviously there's a way to do it, like Ruben, like you were saying earlier. I don't know exactly what that entails, how to maneuver it correctly or in a healthy way. Enlighten us.
Okay, I've got it ready. This was well, I've made this joke a couple of times at different scenarios, and one time around a fire with a bunch of guys. But anyway, so the power of the pussy. Okay, how do you maximize the power of the pussy? Well, you do you first. That's the real big thing, right? Like maximize you, maximize how you feel about yourself, your presentation, all of those different things, right? Because then you sort of become like a bit of a honeypot that can attract different men. Now, the typical, scenario is you start getting some attention and you just go with, the first few, and then, maybe you sleep with them and you get in a relationship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's a very small sample out of all the people. There's 8 billion people in the world. If you were to meet a person every single second, there is not enough years in your life to meet every single person on planet Earth. even if, so 8 billion people, 1 person a second, the average human lifespan, actually you could, if you did 1 person a second, I'm pretty sure. There's about 37 billion seconds in an average person's lifespan, right? Anyway, there's a huge amount of people. The amount of people that most of us interact with on a regular basis is not going to be more than like 10,000, or, you won't even meet that many people, so to speak. So there's just an immense amount of people in the world. And to think that out of your small sample size, you've found global max is silly. Most people get caught in a trap of finding local max, right? The very, like the best of that little group. But when you zoom out, you're like, oh, that guy was the best there. But if I zoom out, he's actually like the lowest rung on this other scale, because there's these people over here that are way better. Okay. So don't try and rush into this. Don't try and find a guy. Develop yourself. Entertain these things, go for dates, whatever, etc. Don't waste too much time with any of this, but utilize it to find the diamond in the rough, right? And help that person to become the best version of themselves. Help them to get out of their own way, right? And use the power of your pussy to do it, okay? Use it to get them out of their own way and help them to become more than what they are currently, to become greater than their current standing. And use it for yourself to become greater as well. Don't just sit back and just be like, oh, I'm just going to, use this guy to get all these things. No, you develop yourself as well. And I truly think that if we took that sort of approach, we're a little bit more selective on these things instead of just quickly giving it up, so to speak. It would be an entirely different world. It would be crazy to see. There's many examples of women throughout history who have done this, who have, they always say behind every man is a great woman. But that's like so true. It really is. And a lot of the time, Einstein's wife was so helpful to him in the findings that he made. Like, she was arguably better at certain things than he was. And without her, there's no way he would, have done the things that he did. And there's just countless examples of this. And I think that they're the sorts of examples. The other thing too is don't overweight the physical things too much, right? Because like you said, it's a fleeting commodity, right? At the end of the day, we all age. Well, up until now, we all age. That might change in the future. But we all age, and we're all going to get older and die. And so why overweight those things so heavily when you could have a more holistic approach to it, where it's, maybe not the most physical attractive specimen, but they're kind and caring and courageous and, good morals and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Weight your decisions differently. And use it to level yourself up, level the guy up, and level the people around you up. Use it to boost, and then that way we could all become better together, which is like a corny ass saying, but it is a thing. The last thing, the better together, my last point. If you got anything, just go for it. I'll try and remember.
Yeah, I think you were about to tell us a simp story of yours. Do you have a simp story that you could share with us?
Not real. I've never been much of a simp. I know that sounds like very arrogant or whatever, but honestly, it's been a weird thing. I'm not like, I don't know. Yeah, I've never been like that. I've always been very different in that regard, though. Like, I've not, when I used to play football, I never really got too into. I tried the culture on at times, but it was never me, if that makes sense. I've always been a little bit different. I've had a very different upbringing to your average person, I would suppose. But no, I've never really simped like that. Just trying to think. What have I done?
Yeah, no, I don't see you simping either, to be honest.
Probably the inverse of a simp, right? So I'm normally. I've never been that interested in the quick one night stuff, right? So that was never really my intention. Like, if I ever went out or did any of that sort of stuff, I was never like, oh, I'm going out to go pick up a girl and take her home or whatever. That was never really the intention. It was more, we're going out because we're going out to do this thing and have fun. Okay. And then because my intention was never to really pick up, I would always just get attention. So and this is actually, I don't have a simp story. I have an inverse simp story, which is going to make me look like a dick. But anyway, I'll tell you. So I did a period when I was at university where I worked on a stripping boat, right? Taking clothes off for money. Okay. And it was fantastic because I could work one day a week or one night a week, and it would pay for, my life and lifestyle for the rest of the week. And so, I didn't have to work all the time, means I could study more, which I did, and just played, did stupid stuff instead. But anyway, me and our mate played FIFA all the time. That was fun. But I would go out on these things, right? And so that was a very eye-opening experience for me. So doing that, I got an insight into what it might feel like to be a girl walking into a club, right? You feel like a piece of meat. You are on this boat. Your job is to, obviously be there to look good and to serve a, function of delivering drinks and being entertainment, right? Essentially. And that's what you're paid to do. But though it's so off-putting when people's intentions are so obvious to me personally, but it's also really off-putting when you can feel the pressure from them, if that kind of makes sense. Like it's, there's like that all eyes on me kind of thing. When you can smell that intention or sense that intention, or you can feel that they're wanting you, so to speak, I found that that's very off-putting. And so I think a lot of guys go wrong because they're out there trying to pick up all the time. And it's so obvious that that's what they're trying to do, that there's a natural aversion to that, right? Like the person that you're trying to pick up is just like, oh, this is like, you're so pushy and you're so forward. Like it's just so obvious, if that kind of makes sense. And so naturally you sort of become averse to it. You just want to go away. And honestly, this is like probably a superpower. I don't know if I should drop this on the pod, but the superpower is like, don't give a fuck. Like, don't go out to pick up. Don't want to do that. Go out to enjoy yourself and have a great time with your friends and whoever else you meet out, but dance and have all that fun. Like, go and do that. That's when the attraction will happen. That's when people will be drawn to you because it's contagious. Like, we've had this happen. We've been out. Montreal's a good experience where we were just out having fun for ourselves. And then all of a sudden, because we're the life of the party, everyone's attracted, like everyone's coming over to us wanting to get involved with what we're doing. We're not interested in any of that, which makes them want to get involved even more. And that's the sort of negative. It's an inverse thing. So yeah, I've always kind of had that to some degree, obviously at different levels, at different times. But yeah, not going out, trying to pick up and not wanting it, and like sort of it being plastered on my face that I'm not really interested in your trickery with any of the illusions, has always helped me to never really have to go chasing. It's more like sort of being the chased.
Damn, dude. I feel like we could do a whole pod on questions I have about what it was like to be a boat stripper. That just sounds fucking hilarious. That would never work the other way around. Imagine being on a boat and there's like a boat, like a stripper boat for guys.
With just like 4 girls. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fucked up, right? That would be like dangerous for the girls, I feel.
It's dangerous for guys. I'm not like, I'm a big, like, I'm a decent sized guy, right? Pretty solid sort of physique. Okay. And there's times when I did get a little bit sketched, right? Because I'm not joking. It's like, what's a good analogy? It's kind of like, it's like being a little baby deer in a pit full of lions. Like, if you ever really want to get an insight how to, women go wild, be a stripper for a day on a boat with the chicks. After they have a few drinks, man, it is like I've been around some pretty, sort of misogynistic men and pretty, like grotesque behavior from men. Like I've been exposed to quite a lot of that. And chicks, they can take the cake on some of it. Like, holy shit. Like, and personal space, and they know that they can get away with it to a certain degree. So I think that feeds into, like, they really will push the boundaries. Like, there's times when we've had to, call it off and put the boat, it's just getting out of control. No respect for personal space or privacy or any of that. Like, just out of control behavior from chicks, like that really is girls gone wild, and some of the behavior is just foul.
There's like this insinuation because you're out on the water on a boat. There's nothing around. It's almost like lawless in a sense. There's like this big insinuation where you can sort of, I'm going to get away with it, or it's a really strange headspace to be in, because like you said, you've had to put a stop to it. But yeah, dude, you put a stop to it, but you still have to turn the boat around and go back to shore.
Yeah.
And it's a continual situation until you get back to shore, right? It's not like you could just leave the club. No, it's all right. We're going to have to turn the boat around and go back to shore. Like that's kind of wild.
On top of that, the only reason, in my circumstance with some of those, the only reason I could put a stop to it was because I was physically stronger and I could put a stop to it. But if you invert that role and you imagine, I'm a woman, or, I'm only 60 kilos or 50 kilos instead of 120, then that becomes a very different scenario. And so, like I said, it was a big insight into how a lot of women might feel in certain social circumstances, especially in clubs and things like that. And so having that experience myself, I could never, ever do that to somebody else. I could never impose myself on anybody else. And I'm always very mindful of that, which is why and I'm also trying to play a longer game where it's like, if things are meant to happen, then they will. I'm not trying to rush stuff. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, bro. I have one more thing I want to say. This just came to mind, and I think you'll find it interesting. And it's along the lines of power of the pussy and how power of the pussy is being used in Colombia. Okay. Have you ever heard of scopolamine? I think that's how you say it.
Scopolamine?
Scopolamine? So scopolamine, it's a drug.
Is it the one that you waft under and then they lose their memory or their ability to do stuff?
Yeah, but it becomes airborne like anthrax. It's like in a powder form, but it becomes airborne very easily, and you don't even know that you've taken it. So here, I just looked it up on Google quickly. What is this? I'm not sure if this is scopolamine. Is used to prevent nausea and vomiting caused by motion sickness, where medications used during surgery. Scopolamine is in a class of medications called antimuscarinics. It works by blocking the effects of certain natural substances, acetylcholine, on the central nervous system. Okay. This is something I would have to look more into. However, I believe it's called scopolamine, the drug, in Colombia. If anyone knows how to say it or what it actually is, let me know. I'll explain it. So what women do down here, there's been many stories of many gringos, these horrendous stories. So this is what happens. Okay. They go online, they're trying to find a date on Tinder or Latin Cupid or whatever site that there is for hookups or finding a girlfriend, whatever. But I think it's mainly for hookups. Women will post a profile on there, right? And then when you meet up with them, they somehow get you to inhale this scopolamine, or they somehow get it into your system, right? And the moment you take it, you become completely docile. And unless you're with someone who knows you, other people don't notice that you're under the influence of this drug, supposedly. But I think it would take someone that knows you to understand, okay, like your pulse goes acting kind of fucked up, right? But you become so docile, and your inhibitions are, I think that's the word, like you have zero inhibitions.
And highly suggest
that the girl now has complete control. And when I mean complete control, they say things like, yo, pass me your debit card. All right, cool. What's the PIN code? All right, cool. Let's go to your apartment. Oh, nice TV. Can I have it? You know what I mean? They can and these women clean people out completely. And Colombia is bad for that. So if anyone is traveling to Colombia thinking that Colombia is a good place to pick up women, yo, you are dead wrong. This is not the fucking place for games, dude. They do not have a pickup culture in Colombia. They do not have a pickup culture here. What they have here are predators, and they will fuck you up. They will fuck you up. The police are in on it. Like everyone's in on it. What's that?
Yeah. It's the gangs too. So a lot of the time, it isn't just the women that are doing that. They're actually part of a gang. And it is typically a man behind that gang who's getting these women to, find these suckers and just take them for everything. But this isn't just Colombia. This is everywhere in the world, guys. This is everywhere. They understand the power of the pussy, those people running those things, and they use those girls to do it. Andrew Tate did a similar thing. That's how he made a decent amount of money, was getting the cam girls and doing stuff like that. But these honeypots exist because men want it to be true, man. They want it to be true. They want that girl that, like, they want her to, like, I don't know if that is the name of the drug. I know that there is a drug that definitely does that. There's a natural substance that they've got in South America that does that as well, which is scary. That lowering the inhibition and stuff. I remember watching something on it years ago, but that is everywhere. I have known many a story of people being scammed by women in that regard. But like I said, I don't think it's not the women out on their own trying to do this. I think they're actually part of gangs. They do similar stuff with kids where they get you to, buy this or donate or whatever. And it's really just a gang that runs all these stray kids around getting money. Interesting thing, right? Don't get caught from the things that look good from far and are far from good. Take your time to dissect. Time is such a valuable thing, and time illuminates truths, like, sort of, so to speak. Like, let time play out a little bit. Delay your gratification, so to speak. Don't go for the instant gratification. That's typically where you get into trouble, just like with these girls and with all the other examples. I have an inverse simp story. Okay. So not about me. I don't know if my ego is blocking me from having my simp stuff, but, like, I'm drawing blanks on it. If I find one, I'm going to tell you on a different pod. But I have an inverse simp story, which is hilarious. There was a Brazilian girl that I met on this boat thing, right? And she was, like, gorgeous. 9 out of 10. Gorgeous girl. Very nice. And she was there with a guy one night on this boat. And I thought that was her boyfriend. So typical, like, I'm not paying any attention to, like, obviously, she's an attractive girl, but I'm not like, oh, like, look at that girl. She's attractive, cool, on with my night, right? Doing my thing. So I didn't even speak to her. And then she comes up to me at the end and she goes, "You never even talked to me," with the accent. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't want to intrude, you with your boyfriend. Like, why would I talk to you?" She's like, "That's not my boyfriend." Okay. So he's not your boyfriend? And she goes, "No. Why did you not talk to me?" I said, "Well, because I thought you were with your boyfriend. You don't think I'm attractive?" And I'm like, "No, you are. You're attractive. So why you not talk to me?" I'm like, "Okay." Anyway, so this goes on and on, right? Anyway, so we started talking, and she actually turned out to be quite a nice girl. That was her friend, whatever. But the only reason she came and spoke to me was because I didn't go and talk to her. Because I didn't give her that approval, so to speak. Anyway, this started this whole thing. So we hung out a few times. She took me to dinner, right? She goes, so we're hanging out. She took me to dinner a couple of times, and she'd messaged me. I wasn't that interested. I was not because of any other reason than I was busy with other things at the time, right? I wasn't necessarily focused on any of that stuff. Anyway, long story short, she says to me, and this is hilarious because it's like the inverse of your story with a Brazilian, okay? So she goes, "I want to take you to dinner, but I want to take you somewhere really special." She goes, "Where would you like to go?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'd like to go and have, no, it was late at night. Sorry. Yeah. She wants to take me really special. So, well, the only place it'd be really nice to go tonight would be like, the Golden Century restaurant in Chinatown. And it's a restaurant that's famous in Chinatown in Sydney. And it's got like all the fish tanks on the window. So, and it's a very iconic sort of building, but they've got all the fish there and the crabs and everything else. And you can go. So anyway, she's like, "Well, let's go there." So she takes me there. She's like, "Order whatever you want." And I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, whatever you want." She's like, "Do you want one of those?" And I was like, "A crab?" And she's like, "Yeah, get a crab." And I was like, "Okay." So I got a crab. We've got fish. We've got all this other stuff, like hundreds of doodles.
Can you do her Brazilian accent?
I'll drop it in when we go, right? She go, and then so we get the crab. She goes, "You go pick." I go over to the fish tank. I pick the crab. Guy comes across and goes, she goes, "Oh, you got a big one?" And I was like, "Yeah, I picked the big one." And we go back and then they make the crab. It comes out. We're chatting. Talking, small talk. Then she hits me with it, right? The whole reason she took me to dinner was because she wanted to drop the bomb on me. she says, I really like you. We get on very well. You've got a good head on your shoulders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're very respectful, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. Will you marry me? Fuck. Oh. And I was like, marry you? She's like, yes, yes. And I was like, no. And she's like, why not? And I was like, why would we get married? And it turns out she then says, well, it's, I'll pay you to marry me. I'll pay you 25,000 Australian dollars because I have a daughter who's in Brazil. She needs to come across, but I need to become a citizen, like this whole big thing. So it turned out to be like a VC style scam. Right? She's like, if you don't love me, it's okay. We just have to pretend for 1 year, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't know. Okay. But the other sketchy thing about her was she was very attractive, right? But she had some body augmentation, right? So she had some of her body fat moved. So she was a bit more shapely and she had fake breasts. I could never really tell if she was actually a man or a woman. I was always very skeptical of that. And I don't know why that was, but it's happened with me with 2 Brazilian women. And I was just like, damn, I don't know. Like, you could be a man. I'm not sure. So I always just err on the side of caution in that regard. But yeah. So she was like, yeah, you're the only guy that hasn't really tried to sleep with me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not sure if you're a man or a girl. So I'm just like, I'll play the long game here. I'm not really feeling to rush in and do some shit that it might psychologically affect me later on. But anyway, that was it. Because I wouldn't follow through with certain things, she's like, this guy, perfect candidate. I'll pay you 25 grand to marry me because there's like no pressure here and I don't feel threatened by you. It's just like crazy how these opportunities arise. Anyway, so I hit my dad up. I was like, Dad, there's this Brazilian girl, quite attractive. She's offered $25,000 to marry me. You reckon I should do it? And he's like, fuck no. What are you thinking? Don't even think about it. No. So long story short, I didn't take the $25,000 and I didn't marry the Brazilian girl. I felt a little bit bad because I was like, oh, her poor daughter. And I was like, what the fuck? It's, relax, slowly roll.
Was it the voice that made you think that she was a man for some reason? A lot of Brazilian girls have, I don't want to say manly-ish voice, but they do when they speak English for some reason.
Yeah. For some strange reason, I find a husky voice kind of attractive. But no, I don't know. It's a combination of a lot of things, honestly. It was, I don't know, I just got like a weird vibe. Like I grew up around a lot of trannies, so I don't know. I feel like my tranny radar is like pretty decent. And like, it was just pinging a little bit too much in that regard, if you know what I mean.
Dude, it's tough because I like living in South America. I totally get where she's coming from. Bro, it's a matter of like life and death in a lot of these situations. I mean, it comes down to safety, right? Brazil has a lot of places that are really unsafe and they don't get the education and the same opportunities. Like in Colombia, it's the same thing. The issue here is that you can work really, really, really hard and you're not going to get out of poverty. It's not going to happen. It doesn't matter how hard you work. Whereas in Australia, if you work really, really hard, you're going to be good.
Yeah, there's an upward mobility here.
Yeah, you're going to be good. So that's like the huge difference is that in these countries, like where her daughter is living, you can work your ass off your entire life and you're going to be dirt poor. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So the desperation.
Yeah,
I admire it.
Guy, I have one more hilarious inverse super story. This is a funny one. I met this girl who's like a fitness influencer. Blonde hair, tan body, that kind of all that sort of stuff. Lots of followers, blah blah blah. And we sort of get along. Says like lots of the keywords, that like pique you. Okay, you get that. Okay, like different worldview kind of thing. When they say all the keywords and you're like, oh, this chick gets it. Like, okay. You're not in for the superficial? Or will you look, like your appearance says otherwise, but I'm open to this, right? Yeah. So just to preface this, like I've always had not always, in my early years, not so much, but earlier in my 20s, I realized that by adding a delay to the gratification, you could avoid a lot of headaches, right? So I put a 1 month rule where I wouldn't engage in any sort of intercourse or sexual activity for at least a month before getting to know someone, right? For at least a month. I broke it with one girl, and that's my partner now. But anyway, long story short, I would have a 1 month rule for everyone, okay? And so met this girl, blah, blah, blah. We hit it off, start spending some time together. She starts putting some pressure on, ends up taking me to Cirque du Soleil, got us tickets to go to Cirque du Soleil, etc. And I'm just trying to explain to guys the power of not giving your dick up as easily as well. And you can invert this if you're a woman, do the same if you're a woman. Anyway, so this, let's go on a date. Let's do this. Let's do that. She's like, why don't you message me? And I'm like, well, yeah, like I'm busy doing this, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I want to hang out. And I'm like, well, is there anything you want to do? No, you come up with something. I said, well, I'm not the one that wants to hang out. You want to hang out. If you want to hang out, come up with something that that would be interesting to do, and I'll come and do it with you for sure. But you've got to organize and let me know. Otherwise, like nothing for me, like I'm not chasing you. Relax. Anyway, so that she would come up with these really cool ideas. So, one night, get tickets. We go to Cirque du Soleil. I'm sitting there with like my jaw open. She's trying to get my attention the whole night. I'm just like, Cirque du Soleil is fucking amazing. If you ever get a chance to go and see it in person. It is a fucking amazing experience. Anyway, I'm literally like the big kid just watching Cirque du Soleil the entire time. She's like trying to bump me and get all my, and I'm just like, not even consciously aware of what's happening. Anyway, so we finish, and then it's like, can you take some photos of me in front of this? It was like, okay, I'll take some photos of you, like, boyfriends of Instagram style. Anyway, she's like, we're driving back after that. And she's like, why haven't you tried to put a move on me yet? And I was like, what do you mean put a move on you? She's like, you haven't tried to, do this or do that or whatever. And I was like, no rush, don't need to. She's like, it's not because you're gay, is it? I was like, no. Okay. She's like, you sure you're not gay? I'm like, pretty certain. I've never experienced, never experimented with it, but not necessarily attracted to men, or really attracted, like, I love the female figure. And, like, I can appreciate a male physique, but like, I love the female physique, right? Anyway, so she's like, are you sure you're not gay? I'm not gay. And she's like, driving home, she's like, so when we get home, if I ask you inside, you'll come inside? And I was like, what are we doing inside? She's like, we go up to my room. I'd be like, well, I don't know, like if there's something to do in there, maybe, but if you invite me in, I'll probably come in. I won't be rude to you. And she's like, well, I want you to come inside. I was like, okay. So walk in, get to her place, walk in, go upstairs to her room, get in. She closes the door and then locks it. I was like, what's going on here?
Well, she asked you if you wanted to come inside, and you said, sure, I don't want to be rude. So now drop your pants and come inside me.
Yeah, that was pretty much it, right? So we're just standing around, small talks happening, et cetera, et cetera. And then she jumps on the bed, she starts like doing these moves. And I don't know why, I'm a weird person, but I'm so averse to that kind of stuff. Like it ekes me out when people are trying to be like overly sexual. I don't know, for whatever reason, it just rubs me up the wrong way. Literally, like I get like icky about it. Okay, so she's on the bed doing all these like flicking her hair and like trying to get my attention. She's like, "Come lie down." And I'm like, "I'm all right, standing up, thanks." And I've got a 1 month rule, like, and we haven't been getting to know each other for more than a month yet. So I'm like, I'm not fucking around with this, right? Anyway, she's like, "Lie down," and I was like, "Good, like kiss me," like, and not kiss, like that's not how we're going to do the kissing, like it's not like, I'm not going to like, you tell me to kiss you or me tell you to kiss, like that's not how you kiss. It's just, it happens in the moment, it's this beautiful thing. It shouldn't be like tell someone to do it. I don't know, for whatever reason, that's my style. Anyway, so she's like, you are fucking gay. I knew you were fucking gay. And I was like, I'm not gay. Right. And then she starts having this massive argument with me, right? This huge argument about how I'm gay or whatever. And I was like, halfway through, I'm like, hold up, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I even arguing about this? I'm just going to start saying I'm gay. That's a fucking easy out, right? I'll just get out of the room. I'm gay. Fucking that'll solve this argument. So I start going, yes, I'm gay. I'm sorry. I misled you. I'm gay. It's, you know, because in my mind, I'm just like, this chick is crazy. Like, no, I'm so glad I had my 1 month rule. Like, you know, this is why I've got the 1 month rule in place, you know, identify these things early before you get in and it's too deep. Anyway, so I started saying I'm gay. She's like, you're not, you're just saying that because you want to get out now. And I was like, yes, that's exactly right. Anyway, we have this like little scuffle. I go to try and get out. She blocks the door. She's like blocking the door and she's like wrestling me. I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, holy fuck. You are so lucky that you put that like the 1 month rule in place. Because like if you got into this, like imagine you wouldn't have seen this for, you know, the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden you would have been in so deep with this that like, fuck, how do you get out? Anyway, we have this sort of scuffle and she's like really good at not letting me get to the, like unlock the door. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to be like, use my strength and I'll just be very gentle. So I just like gently pick her up, throw her on the bed, pretend I'm going to dive on her. And just as I do, I just take it, turn to the left, unlock the door and fucking run out of the house. And that was the last time I ever saw her.
Holy fuck. That is such a good story, dude. That's mad funny. Bro, there you have it. There you have it, guys. Power of the cock.
Yeah, you can do it.
Can happen. You can do it. All right, man. I mean, even I learned something today. All right. I'm going to, if I ever have to, I'm going to also utilize the power of the cock. And I suggest all the male listeners try and do the same.
Don't give it up so easy.
Yeah.
Okay. One last thing to finish on, right, is be the person that you would want to be with, right? Like make yourself the person that you wish you had, if that makes sense, right? I'm a big believer in if you build it, they will come. And that is like, you know, if you really develop yourself to a point where, you know, you can love yourself genuinely, not like some, you know, very superficial, shallow, like that kind of stuff. But if you really love yourself, you're really proud of yourself and how you conduct yourself and how you are in the world, you will attract that in other people. I think that's a sort of big lesson. But yeah, the less you want it, the more they want to give it to you.
So that goes to all you guys that still haven't subscribed. You're not getting any dick from either of us if you don't subscribe and like the video and share it with your friends. All right. Power of the cock.
Is that are our subscribers male or female?
Both. I'm not
You're just gonna give it out to anyone.
Yeah, I'm not fucking any guys or girls until they subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share the video. That's what I was trying to say.
And then once you do that, once they like, subscribe, and do the video, you're going to then move the thing to the next level, which is like, no, I'm not gonna give it up until you do this next thing. That's the power of the cock, and that's the count.
That's the power of the cock. So no, so hold on. If you subscribe, I'll let you touch it. All right. And then we'll talk. And then we'll talk. We'll go from there. We'll see how things go. I have this 1 month rule. So
okay, just sorry, before, have you ever had a rule like that? Like I only put it in place because without it, it was just a minefield out there.
I have a rule that if the girl doesn't fuck me after on the first date, then it's a waste of time. I'm joking, but I'm joking and I'm shamefully not joking at the same time.
Yeah, but there's phases in your life that are like that, correct?
Yeah,
that's like a young phase for sure.
So I will say that a big, like my largest weakness, I think, was that me being a fucking simp and me trying to do things in order to combat being a simp and doing things to get sort of back at having bad relationships. That's like a whole nother, we should have another pod on that actually. Yeah, I've had a bad relationship with I would say with relationships. Yeah. Because I've had a lot of I've had a lot of good girlfriends and I've had a lot of bad girlfriends. And I had one girlfriend specifically that was, I think I mentioned it on an earlier pod, that was both emotionally and physically abusive, which that was my last relationship before with my wife that I'm currently with. What's that?
It said, yeah, that was your last one before your most recent.
Yeah. So it took me a lot of self-reflection and a lot of work to get with my wife, which I'm with today. And it took me not being a simp. Like I'm joking around. I mean, I've simped a lot, but to get with who I'm with today, I couldn't be a simp, right? I had to open my heart to the possibility of having a healthy relationship. There's a lot of things that had to happen in order for me to have such a great woman now. But before her, I had that devastating relationship that really fucked me up. And I was just on a rampage, like, yo, I'm just gonna sleep, have one night stands. That's when I went through my one night stand phase.
I'm going to increase my sample size greatly.
Yeah, I'm gonna exactly.
But that's like that, and that's another thing too. Is like sometimes in order to figure out what you like, you have to figure out what you don't like. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to do all those different things. You know, at the end of the day, we're all figuring this out for the first time. Like, it's our first go at this rodeo in this instantiation. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And look, it's crazy because you know, there is something to be said about increasing your sample size and having some variance and variety, because I think it really helps you to appreciate when you do have a great partner, or when you find, you know, someone that is a great partner. If you've had bad relationships, it can really help your appreciation of the good relationships.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, fuck yeah, that was funny. It was meant to be a joke episode. The whole thing. We love women, we love men as well. Not necessarily in a sexual way, but we appreciate you all for your individual beauty and being that you are. So embrace your uniqueness, make the most out of it, and don't give your pussy or dick away so freely. Put some barriers.
100%. Well said.
Put a 1 month rule in place and see what crazy stories you end up with.
All right, bro. Love you.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends.
All right. Peace, bro.
Peace.